very lovely weather day here in Israel on this Thursday, October 16th, 2025. And of course, I'm here to talk about things. And in this episode, let's talk about the mayor of New York and the upcoming election for that job. Currently, the outgoing mayor, Eric Adams, has been kind of a traditional corporate Democrat and has even received a pardon from President Trump, or got off the hook or whatever from the help of President Trump. And the candidates right now, of course, are Zoran Mamdani, who is the candidate for the Democratic Party after having won the primary, and one of his main rivals, maybe his main rival, is New York's former governor, Cuomo. And the two of them, I believe, have a debate. Had one last night or had one tonight. I forget, honestly. I didn't watch it, if it was already aired. But I think it's actually tonight. But in any case, whether it was last night or tonight is moot. The point is, those are two of the leading candidates to basically take the seat. And by all accounts, if you are the Democratic nominee of the mayor, for the mayor of New York, you're pretty much going to win that unless you really blow it. Yes, there have been times when there have been Republican candidates who have won. Obviously, Giuliani, Bloomberg, others have happened throughout history. But, New York is a pretty democratic city, generally speaking. Democrat Party, I mean. Pretty blue city and a pretty blue state, generally speaking. But this guy who's running as the Democrat nominee brings some very anti-American values to the table, in my opinion. He is anti-capitalist. He is pro more socialism, like with his idea for free buses and free grocery stores. Those are the kind of populist lines that are sold in socialist and communist countries that never work out for the betterment of the people. By the way, why am I talking about this issue since I'm here in Israel? Well, I'm American. I do care what happens in America. And one of the many cities I lived in the United States was, of course, New York. And I absolutely love that city. And I have many friends there, and I care about what happens there. And I wish them only success and prosperity and happiness and health and all that stuff. And I think that this candidate who's running for mayor is making some grievous errors. So, for example, he's anti-capitalist, he's pro-socialist, and of course, he sides with the jihad, the global jihad. And if you don't know what the global jihad is, well, there is a global jihad happening. And by the way, it's been happening since the days of Muhammad. And that global jihad is very simple. It is a holy war being waged by the literal believers of Islam, ones who read the Quran and take it literally and adhere to its very conservative and sometimes extremely violent views that the world should be ruled entirely by Islam. And the people who are not of that faith should basically be, at best, second-class citizens who have to pay a special tax just for them in order to humiliate them and make them understand that they are oppressed people by the ethno-supremacist people or the religio-supremacist people who rule them. And that's at best. And at worst, they would be killed. And somewhere in between, they could be, they could either convert. I guess that would be the best if they want to have equal rights, right? They could convert, or they could become slaves, sex slaves, any other kind of property of the people that oppress them. And That is basically what he advocates for without saying it. Now, why do I make this claim? Well, we've already seen him endorse Hamas against Israel. Hamas is literally a jihadist, literalist Islamist group. They are quite literally an extremely violent group that wants to commit jihad against Israel, against all Jews, and by the way, after that, against all people around the world who are not Muslim already in their particular faith. So, for example, if you're a Christian, if you're a Jew, if you're an atheist, if you're Zoroastrian, if you're anything that's not Muslim, it's either death or dimitude, where you pay the jizya tax, or you become a sex slave, or you convert. Those are your four options. And by the way, that also goes for if you're a Shia or a Sufi or any other kind of Muslim that doesn't happen to agree with their version of Sunni Islam. You could even be a Sunni Muslim and they might still find you to be an apostate because you're not religious enough in their view or literalist enough in their view. Right? So, because of that, right, they have a worldview that is not helpful or conducive to world peace. I forget world peace. Just economic prosperity, political security and stability, right? Equal rights. They're against all of those things that he pretends to be for. You know, he says he's all about equal rights and he wants people to have healthcare for all, and he wants free buses, free grocery stores, he wants affordable housing. All these things sound really nice on paper or in speeches, but none of them can answer, none of these fanciful ideas, what he'd like to see, can actually answer the big question of one, who's going to pay for those services, right? Where those tax money is going to come from when the governor has already said she's not going to raise taxes on New Yorkers to do this? And more importantly, how do you know that you can trust this guy not to slowly mission creep soft jihad into New York when he has said he's going to do exactly that? How is he going to do that, Yasha? Well, I'll tell you. He's going to do that by appearing to be doing all the right things and saying all the right things and slowly introducing legislation that makes it easier for soft jihad to happen. For example, he will limit the legal definition of the word anti-Semitism, which makes it easier for people to attack Jews when he does that. He will make it so that New York has worsening relationships with Israel, when New York City literally has the biggest population of Jews outside of Israel. He will make it so that the Prime Minister of Israel will feel as unwelcome as possible the next time he has to come for a UN General Assembly. Right? He will do everything in his power. No, he wouldn't be able to arrest the Prime Minister, okay, because of various laws, frankly. Even if he says, "Oh, we will arrest him because of the ICC, whatever arrest warrant that's set on Prime Minister Netanyahu, which is ridiculous, especially now that there's literally a ceasefire and hostages have been exchanged and there's been an agreement to stop the fighting. So, what exactly would you arrest him for? A genocide that didn't happen? Right? It's a genocide that the ICC or the ICJ literally said there wasn't enough evidence to say that it was definitively a genocide. So it's a ridiculous position that he's taking, but it's an easy political theater position that he's taking because those who are against it, but not strongly enough, will say, "Oh, it's a stupid decision, but I like the rest of his plans, so I'm okay with that." I'm not okay with that, even if I did agree with the rest of his plans, which I don't. Do I think housing should be more affordable in New York? The market is what the market is. people migrate all the time. Yeah, it'd be great if housing was more affordable, I suppose, if you're a tenant, right? But then again, many tenants are perfectly happy and able and willing to pay whatever the actual cost of rent is. Now, is rent quite high in New York? Yeah, absolutely. Rent is very high in New York. Does that mean that New Yorkers should all leave New York? No. There's plenty of people obviously living in New York, and obviously most of them somehow are paying rent. Yes, there's always a percentage of people who are unable to do that, and it sucks to not be able to pay rent. It's absolutely awful, and to go into debt because of things like basic, living expenses. Sometimes people don't have a choice; they're stuck where they are, and they need to find a way out. And until they do, they have no choice but to go into deeper and deeper debt until they find a way out. That's part of life. You don't always have, like, it's easy to say, oh, you should just go do this or do that. If you don't know somebody's context, you really are not in a position to say that. And there are millions and millions of people living in New York, and it's not a one size fits all band aid solution that's ever going to fix all the problems. So you can't just say, oh, by reducing the housing costs by 5% or 10%, we're suddenly going to solve the problems of housing in New York. That's just not reality. That's not going to happen. You're not going to solve the housing crisis in New York, the affordability crisis, that is, of housing in New York, just by reducing the cost of housing by 5 or 10%. Right? It's just not going to happen. Right? You're still going to have problems. You're still going to have people that can't afford to pay their rent. You're still going to have problem after problem. I'm not saying that it wouldn't help at all. Sure, it would help if you would, put maybe some kind of a cap. It would help certain people. It wouldn't help everybody. Not everybody needs it, right? Most people don't need it. But it would obviously help those most in need, and that's fine. But to help those most in need, you don't need to change the entire system for everyone. You just need to target those who are most in need. And if you don't do that, if you just throw a general kind of bucket of change at the situation and splash everybody with your solution, even if it is ill-fitted, does not actually do anything to make a difference, it potentially makes it worse, well, then you really haven't solved anything, and you're not doing what you said you would do, in which case you're becoming just another politician. But the problem with Mamdani is, again, he's not just another politician. He's another politician literally looking to soft jihad America, as I've explained. He is looking to bring significant social change to the city. He is looking to, and you can call me an Islamophobe if you want, I'm not an Islamophobe, but he is looking to Islamify the city more and more and more. Now, why is that a problem? Well, the only problem that I have with that is that the kind of Islam he wants to bring into the city more and more and more through legislation is the kind of Islamism that does not want to reform and that does not want its followers to adopt the ways of living in America. They're the kind of Islamism that says, remain who you are, reject Western values, undermine the country you're in. And they say it openly. This isn't like some dark secret plot that they're saying in secret. No, these are things that they're saying openly. These are statements that they made in public many times on many different channels and outlets in many different ways to many different people. They absolutely reject the idea of being westernized and accepting to live with Western values. They don't want to live with Western values. They reject them wholesale. They want to live with their Islamist values, which suppress and oppress and are not equal, and they are supremacist, right? So they don't believe in equal rights for gays or women or different races or different religions. They only believe in rights for themselves, and everybody else must be second to them. Well, guess what? There's already 53 countries around the world that are ruled by Islam. How's that working out for them? There's already 23 countries around the world that are ruled by Arabs. And by and large, most of those countries are faring very badly because they reject any type of reform. They absolutely do not want to live in a modern society. They want to live continually in a society that continues to revert to the Dark Ages, quite literally to the Dark Ages. And anyone who can't see that is either refusing to see it or is ignorant about it and does not know any better, which is entirely possible. People may be blind to the truth because they do not know it, but also many people just simply refuse the truth because it doesn't fit their particular way of seeing things. So, for my part, as someone who no longer lives in New York but still cares deeply about it, like I said, I have many friends and colleagues there. Um, it's sad to me to see that, you know, the the great New York City, the Big Apple, the capital of capital, is falling victim and very well will be overtaken by a guy who will play a very safe, creeping game, and he will appear to say the right things and he will sound like he's saying the right things. And what he's actually going to do is secure his reelection first and foremost. That's the number one thing he's going to try to do. If he gets elected, the only job he's going to care about is securing his reelection. And he's going to do that by making incredibly slow changes so that people get used to the changes without complaining too much. Slowly but surely, right, they'll see shiny stores and free bus rides. Oh, well, they'll think this is great. And then over time, after a few years, when it's already time for him to be running for re-election, things might start to be getting a little bit, changed and not for the better. At that point, it'll be kind of too late if he's already grabbed the nomination again. It'll be too late for them to reject him at the polls. And then if he's in office another term, things will begin to get worse, right? And it'll be this creeping sort of jihad where it's step by step, day by day, and kind of forced on the people through legislation and through enforcement of various laws and stricter enforcement of other laws. And that's how you slowly but surely, over time, begin to change the laws of a country from the inside when you have the intention to undermine that country. Right? You follow the laws, you make new ones, you get rid of old ones you don't like, and slowly but surely, you change your country, or you change your city, and then your state, and then your country into something that is completely unrecognizable to you. And it happens very easily within 10 to 40 years, depending on the place. And New York is a very fast paced place. So changes there may seem like they could take a very long time, but within 10 years from now, New York could be a very, very, very different place. Mark my words, in 2035, if Mamdani has had 2 terms in office, there is a high probability that New York will be a very different place if they don't manage to revert their course and undo the things he has said he wants to do, which are frankly terrible for New York. So that's my take on this, and I'd love to know what you think. Leave a comment if you think Mamdani is going to do a great job or a terrible job. What do you think? Do you agree with what I've said? If you have your own opinions, leave a comment below. I'm supposed to point down to it. Leave a comment below. And of course, if you like what I've said here, or even if you hate it, go ahead and smash the like button anyway. Or subscribe. Right? Go ahead and subscribe and share this, and hit the little notification bell icon so you catch my videos as they come up. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, take care. Peace.